we have, let me save the agent, wire to the web page. Yep, yep. The agent, it gives the ID of the agent. We'll come back to this in a moment. But it describes why this is advantageous over just directly typing into an LLM. This is nice. Uh, how it's wired to the page. Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's look at the agent just to confirm that it was built correctly, but I'm sure it was. If I go over here, I'm going to do the garment manufacturing analyst. And if we go to the edit view, you can see the prompt here. So good. We didn't have to think through, all this stuff. It just did the research for us and told us what is good and bad in the garment industry and gives some guidance on the SQL table. And yeah, this is, I asked for a business centric answer. So it seems to have given that. That's great. I'll go back to the works, to the where are we here? This is the visual. And okay, so there's one last feature I'd like to add, which is an annotations feature. I'd love for a person viewing this to be able to add an annotation, because imagine you have this up as you're walking around the floor of your production facility, or you're having a meeting and you just want to say, here was the root cause we talked about for why this was good or bad. And so I'm going to add that now. Um, I think I'm going to start a new chat here just because I sometimes look at the number of tokens down here and there's already been one case where it needed to be compacted. So there's a lot of context in this chat. And that means it may not be able to provide as much valuable info. The context will maybe confuse the LLM more than help it when it thinks about building this next feature, which is fairly self-contained and not built, not related to anything else. So let me, I'm going to read, let's see what it gave a name for this chat. Yeah, it called database tables because that's when we started, but I'm going to just call it app setup. We are going to save that, and then I'm going to start an entirely new chat, and we're going to say, let's think of the user story. I'd love for viewers to be able to annotate the heat map as they learn about the root cause for. Can you suggest an approach? We're going to have it planned first. Annotation feature that an executive can use to add and save and then view it by default. Right? We don't want a person to have to say like show annotations. It just, we already have a good view right here. It should just appear there and then view it alongside other. So I am by no means an expert UI designer. I've seen different annotation patterns, and of course, some exist in the D3 site, but I'd rather just ask for some guidance here and give an approval so that the agent knows, the architect knows to plan first and then build after that. Okay, so let's see. We can see there's a bunch of things that were changed. Let's get the summary. There's a new table. There's a notes panel in the drill down. I'm going to have to look at this to see what it looks like. And then any cell that already has one annotation gets a dot. Okay, so let's see what this is. Let's go to view. And how do I add? Okay, so maybe the way it implemented is if I go here and executive notes. Okay, so here's how I did it. It created this all the way down here. I think the open question is whether this should happen on an entirely separate page or whether it should happen inline on the heat map. I think I like this idea of having it on the drill down page because you have to be investigating the data in order to properly annotate it. Um, so let's just make sure everything works here. I'm going to put in a test annotation. I'll hit add note. And then where do we think this is going to appear? Do we think there's going to be a badge, right? But I don't see this. Where did it go? Okay, well, it should be in the database. So let's see. Did it work? And where can I see it? Yeah, let me make sure I'm clear on what the preview tab is. So I'm going to screenshot the at the top, and I'll just say, is this the preview tab? So this is rather than consulting a knowledge base or some help center, I want to get the answer right now. Okay, sounds good. So I should be in the right place, so let's try this again. And now I'm not going to refresh the page this time to ensure that if something goes wrong, it doesn't lose it. I'll call it my test annotation 2. I'll hit add note. And yeah, something's broken. It says no notes yet. So something broke. Okay, in this session, it save. All right, let's see what went wrong. Okay, let's see what happened. Page runs in an sandbox iframe by default, blocks all network requests, add note, but the request never actually left the page. Save and load annotations. All right, reload the view tab. Let's do this. I'm going to refresh the page. Okay. So we refresh the page. Click any heat map cell, scroll to executive notes at the bottom, and then click OK. Let's do this. Okay, so I saw this little note flash. So something happened, but it didn't correctly happen. So let me just see if there's anything obvious in the console. And I'll just screenshot the console logs here and put it in there just in case. Okay, so we seem to have some SQL query issues. Now reload the view tab, click a cell, scroll to executive notes. I'll be watching. Okay, thank you to the architect. We'll call it my test 4. And eventually, if this keeps going, if this keeps having issues, I might switch the model to Opus so that it does better on this debugging. But let's continue on this for now. So I'll go back. It asks me to open the dev tools, so I'll do that. Make this smaller. Click a heat map cell. Do this again. Add a note. Look at the console. You should see lines starting with annotations. Here's what I see. Okay, it's already returned a result. That was pretty quick. Let's see. So you can see it knows that it needs to create a new database table because we need to save these annotations. A badge, right? We have to have some way to know that there is an annotation that needs to be viewed. We don't want to crowd this up with all the text. Right, in the drill down view, yep, we should show it in the drill down view. So anything shown there, that's smart. And then on hover, yeah, I think that's optional because we don't know if someone's going to be using this on their mobile device, at which point there is no hover interaction. There is just a press. So that's not as important. We have an interaction model. It writes this table space. So yeah, create the table, add the annotation dot badges, and then a way to create them and then view them. Okay, it sounds like a good plan. Um, let's see what happens. Okay, so it seems to have found more issues with the SQL query, namely that it wasn't handling strings correctly. So let's see if I can get this right. I'll shrink these. I'm going to go here. I'll go back. Whoops, that's the back button for the whole thing. We'll click into any of these things. And I'll go my sixth note. All right, it popped up. So it found the issue with how it was handling these strings. Great. So I can see this here. It says my sixth note. And then let's go back and see how that appears on this. Which one were we clicking on? See, this is the issue. So I will close this. I'll say can, or let's see, where does this annotation appear on the heat map? Can I see it without drilling down? Aha, there we go. So maybe I didn't scroll down far enough. One note. I don't love that that does not appear there. Uh, yep, so we want to do option A. We can see over here. Option A, just so a person doesn't have to click all the way in to do this. Okay, great. So it has returned. It is now gone. That's a bit concerning. So something seems broken. I need to now remember where this was listed, which is not great. So maybe I need to tell it to debug itself again. Okay, rather than me clicking around forever, let's just tell it that something went wrong. Oh, it tells me team 12, quarter 5. So we know it's not there. It has now. Don't care that I spelled that wrong. It just needs to know that it disappeared. Okay, let's see how it's doing. Okay, we have my sixth node is appearing, but wait, there's one more. There's one down here. Okay, it seems to be confused between T12, uh, finishing T12, and sewing T12. So this is a small bug, and I will note this because it's getting something confused. It now appears also appeared incorrectly on the uh, sewing T12 result. Yeah, a lot of these issues come from the fact that, when these are strings, they can't be put in order correctly. So now we had to reorder them as numbers. But then when we try to feed that back into the SQL, it gets confused because now it has to remap the numbers to strings. So I think that's what's happening, but that's not a huge deal. It's already been figuring that out. Okay, you can see the database may not have even logged that the note was just on the finishing department. So then there was no way to know which one it should pop up on. So now it's fixed that. And now you can see if you hover over it, we have a note from me that says my sixth note. Myself an expert on the best user experience for this. And I don't consider myself an expert on the best way to analyze the productivity of a garment factory. So I'd like to do one more pass where I ask the LM if it has any ideas for improvement now that it has all the context from our session. So I'm going to ask the architect over here. I'll expand this window a little bit. Um, and I'll ask, okay, I am pretty happy with the visuals for now, but can you do another review if there is any better ways? Because one thing we haven't shared with the architect are the goals of what this view should who's it for? It's for a plant manager who wants to analyze the productivity of their plant, let's say on a monthly basis. So let's go back to those the goals of all of this and see if the architect comes up with something. Do you tell me if there's a better way to um, help a plant manager discover the root causes of productivity, let's say fluctuations, because that's what fluctuations at their plant on a monthly basis. Right. The whole point is that we want to share with the architect what our goals are so that it can help brainstorm with us. We don't expect it to do all of the creative work in this sort of thing. And we also acknowledge that we may not have the best ideas for creative work on things that are new to us. Okay, let's see what it came back with. Discover patterns by clicking around and didn't give them a generate monthly summary. Um, okay, I have some follow up ideas on this, but let's continue. Um, hmm, okay. Cross team outlier callouts. Right. This is a good idea. Why was this particular team so far off? I like that as an idea. Um, day of week pattern review. Yeah, not sure about that one. Trend line at the heat map. Yeah, underperformers only. It's another thing. Okay, so we'll just do the monthly AI summary. And I think, there's multiple ways we could do this. We have our agent. So I think the agent would be a good one to write this summary because they're the business focus of the agent. I'm trying to think if there would even be like, if we could come up with multiple monthly summaries, one for the business focus of the plant, another for the productivity. So I'll just, you can see how the brainstorming can go because there's multiple people within your company that care about these results. But I'll just stick with number one for now. And then let's go back up to number one. Um, the question is, where should this live? Because this is a report. So uh, I think how I'd like to implement this is let's get the monthly summary. Let's also um, add, we don't want to add all annotations from the month. Let's just add a text box where someone um, can add their commentary, and then we'll add an email button as well to send an email. So let's say do number one and use the agent we already created to help write the summary, but can we also add an, uh, let's just do the simpler send email function so that we can email it to someone of our choice. All right, the architect finished up here. Let's see what we have. We have a monthly summary button at the top, right here. That looks good. Let me make sure I'm on view mode only. Monthly summary button at the top, which calls an agent that looks at the data context. It breaks it down, and then it'll send an email. And then it also created a function so that we can reuse that email functionality throughout other parts of our workspace if we wanted to. And it lets us know that we still need to add that API key, which I'm not going to do for now. So let's just make sure the monthly summary works. Okay, failed to generate summary. Let's try again. Let's try again. Okay, not working. Let's see what went wrong. Okay, let's try this. There we go. Agent is not enabled. Okay, so you're seeing it's proactively trying to fix the issue. So it's essentially reviewing this full data, the monthly summary is looking at the data itself, maybe not the visuals as much. Best and worst weeks, you can see a summary. Yeah, I'm not sure this is so much advantageous over just, sending a screenshot of the dashboard. There's a lot to process here, but you get the idea. I'd like to see if it actually successfully used the agent though. So can you add a top of the modal to show which agent or model it uses? I'd like to use the agent we built where possible. Okay, the agent works a purple uh, analyst badge, fallback. Okay,